One of the busiest teams this 2023 offseason was the Phoenix Suns. Ever since making the finals in 2021, the first year after they traded for Chris Paul, this team has been committed to winning a championship. And they won last year, or 2 years ago, their franchise best game, 63 wins, but they of course lost to the Mavericks in historic fashion in Game 7, where they pretty much got blown out after the first quarter. Last year, they had some injury issues, and then they made, of course, the big Kevin Durant trade, where they traded Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and pretty much all of their first round picks and like one swap, and they wanted to go all in, but then against the second round against the Nuggets, they lost in 6. Chris Paul got hurt. A lot of the role players just didn't perform at all. And so this season, even though they had so many problems, they made the Bradley Beal trade. And it's looking interesting. Of course, they signed some more free agents, but is it really enough for this Phoenix Suns team to win the championship? Let's talk about it. So before I start, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, as it further motivates to make more videos like this. So let's get right into it. So first, talk about this team. We of course know this team is insanely top heavy, with the big four of Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. And sure, the shot creation is going to be incredible. Kevin Durant's a top 3 scorer of all time. Devin Booker has really emerged as like one of the best shot makers in the entire league. And of course, Bradley Beal averaged 32 points a game, or 30 points a game, about 3 years ago, and he still has that really good shot making on all 3 levels, and they pretty much can all get a bucket in all 3 levels. But there's of course a lot of problems. First, their offensive style is kind of redundant. It's just like they like to all play in the mid-range. I mean, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are one of the best mid-range scorers in the entire league, and Bradley Beal also likes to hit like that step back 15-footer that he's also really good at. But like having that redundant skill set doesn't really help. Of course, they're all good 3-point shooters, but they really don't have the most volume. And maybe like Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal will like take more threes, and maybe it's gonna work out better. But like as we saw in the playoffs, like especially against Denver, like they just didn't shoot enough threes. And sure, Devin Booker shot like 60% from the field, Kevin Durant shot like 50% from the field, but still that Nuggets offense, because of their threes, their just how fluid that offense was, they just didn't have enough to stop them. So of course, having the shot creation is amazing. Like just having someone who can give the ball, give a bucket, and any defense can't play tight on all 3 players. Maybe they can double KD, but like leaving Bradley Beal open, that isn't a good idea. And I think Bradley Beal, his 3-point efficiency hasn't been amazing the last couple of years, but he's been like a high 30s to even like low 40% catch and shoot 3-point shooter. So if he can really bring back that game, like when he was with John Wall, he was a really good 3-point shooter. And if he can bring that back, then that's going to be huge for this team. And I think, of course, Devin Booker is like a top 15 player in the league. Kevin Durant's shot making is incredible. And if they can keep that, then sure, it kind of sucks. Like they all like to operate in the mid-range. And they also don't have a lead playmaker. Like sure, Bradley Beal and Devin Booker and even Kevin Durant can give you like 6 assists every night, but they don't have that like funny to say, like Chris Paul type of player who's just gonna lead the offense. And maybe they have enough playmaking with all 3 of them guys together, but we'll see if that costs them at all. I'm not really sure. And then of course the defensive issues, like Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, decent defenders. Kevin Durant's a decent defender, but of course KD's getting older now, and so we'll see if that works out. I think having the other 2 guys hopefully be a plus on defense is gonna be huge for this team. And then also another problem, bringing up another issue, is the health issues. I mean, like Bradley Beal has missed 20 to 30 games for like the last 3 seasons. Devin Booker has a hamstring problem. Kevin Durant, pretty much, he's on fire for like the first like 30 games of the season, then he gets a random knee injury. Like Kevin Durant is also getting older. He's not going to be able to play as many games as he normally can. And if one of those guys goes down, and then maybe like 2 guys, like we saw with the Suns last year, we saw Devin Booker go down, we saw Chris Paul go down, we saw DeAndre Ayton go down. And if that happens, of course we don't want that to happen, that's really going to cost the team, especially for how little depth there is on this team. And then not moving over to DeAndre Ayton, I mean, DeAndre Ayton is just so frustrating sometimes. Like you see the physical talents with this guy. He's 7 foot, he's so strong, but yet he just doesn't have that dog in him, where he isn't as physical as you want him. He just catches lobs, he finishes around the paint, and instead of being that bruiser inside, he's just kind of there. And like sure, maybe you would hope that their coach Monty Williams, or their former coach Monty Williams, really put him more in the offense, but like he just has his moments where like you don't see his presence on the team, which honestly, for a max contract and the first overall pick, like that isn't great. And I don't know if he needs to play better. He needs to assert himself like way better. If he can be a 20 and 10 type of guy on pretty good defense, like we saw like in that 2021 playoff run, he's gonna be huge for this team. And there's been rumors about him getting traded. I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon, but like if there is a problem with this team, DeAndre Ayton may be the scapegoat. And then looking at all their other players, I mean, they have Yuta Wembanyama, Keita Bates-Diop, Eric Gordon, which I think was a really underrated signing, Drew Eubanks, Damian Lee, Josh Okogie, and sure, they're all solid players, but like, and like considering the context of the situation, like getting Eric Gordon on the minimum contract is really good. You have like Damian Lee won a championship, Josh Okogie is a solid defender, Yuta is a good shooter. Keita Bates-Diop can be just a young guy like Metu, Drew Eubanks, and sure, they aren't like the greatest things, but for the situation, it isn't bad, I guess. So we'll see if one of these guys can slide in alongside Aiden, Booker, Beal, and KD, and maybe that's Eric Gordon, maybe that's Yuta, and if he can be a solid like 3-and-D player, even Eric Gordon, like of course he's gonna get you a bucket, he's a good shooter, but if he can work on his like flick coming in on defense, that might be one of the best pickups of the whole offseason. And then just having these guys, maybe they hope that like Bol can be good. I really don't have any more faith in Bol because we see this every year where he has his moments, but like getting cut from the Orlando Magic, who's on a rebuilding team, like that doesn't really show the best, and especially that this Suns team just doesn't have the time to wait for Bol to be good. And then also we've seen moves this offseason where the Suns traded swaps they traded swaps and then they traded that swap again. It's really confusing that like, so they traded the remaining of their swaps to the Wizards in the Bradley Beal trade, and then now they have that. So pretty much the rule is that you have to have a first round pick every other year, and when they trade with the swap, they still have that pick, but they of course they get the worst pick with the Wizards. And then now they're using that swap and adding a 13 where the 13 or like the Wizards get the first pick or the best pick out of those three. The second team, I think they traded with like the Magic, they get the second highest, and then the Suns get the third highest. It's kind of crazy that they're trading a swap like together to get just some more second round pick assets. But honestly, this team is so locked into this roster that I guess it makes sense. It's of course a risk, like if they're bad in like 4 years, it's gonna be absolutely terrible for them. But like still, they want to go onto this roster. I really don't know how I feel about that. Like seeing all the risk and seeing that like KD is getting older. Sure, Booker isn't that old, but like Bradley Beal is pretty old, and especially that they're locked into this team like 4 maxes with super max with Kevin Durant, super max with Beal, about to be a super max with Devin Booker. DeAndre Ayton's getting the max, and then you have everyone else. Like I don't really know if it's the best thing, but is it? But now that raises the question: are they good enough against some of the other Western Conference teams like the Nuggets? I really don't know. They're gonna have such a hard time guarding Jokic again unless DeAndre Ayton is like amazing. Like just they of course lost in 6 games, and maybe adding Bradley Beal is enough to push them over the top. But like that's gonna be a pretty tough matchup. The Lakers, I mean, maybe they can match up just the offensive firepower, but like this Lakers defense is gonna be really solid this season. So I don't know about that. Like the Warriors, maybe they can outmatch the Warriors with just everything they have and hope that like someone could be that 5th guy. The Grizzlies, if John Morant's back, we'll see how that goes. The Clippers, I mean, they of course beat the Clippers without Kawhi and Paul George, but like if they're both healthy, if they trade for Harden, that's gonna be an interesting matchup. And this Western Conference is pretty competitive. Sure, Denver is probably the favorite to win the West, but there's like these teams like the Suns, the Lakers, the Warriors, even maybe like I guess the Grizzlies maybe, but like these teams have a shot to overthrow the Nuggets, and if they can put it all together, make sure like work on the problems they had last season, it could definitely work out. So do the Suns have enough? I mean, they of course have all the offensive firepower, but if they can get everything, like just stay healthy, work on the defense, make sure they're shooting enough threes, make sure everything's fluid, make sure they aren't too top heavy, this team is going to be deadly. So that being said, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on next time.